watching M.O.D Entertainment. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and check out the website to get the gear. The link will be in the description.
Street life, catch me underneath that street light. It's that playground where we live and we lose lives. Street life, catch me underneath that street light. It's that playground where we live and we lose life. Street life, catch me underneath that street light. It's that playground where we live and we lose lives. Street life, catch me underneath that street light. It's that playground where we live and we lose lives. Who got a pumpers right here? It be getting fixed. They claiming G, then why they acting like a little bitch? And fuck the DMs and the IG, we be splitting wigs. We handle real, be the type where you ain't getting shit. Without recording, without bragging, never speaking it. Now tell your story, get them like your fools, be out of it. They claiming gangster, why they acting like some little kids? They want attention, is the reason why I'm cocking it. I love their smile once they
G-File.
Alright, what's good, G-Life? Now right here, we're going to be starting off in the new city portion of Chicago, was known as the back of the yards area. Now right here we have one of the old school neighborhoods right here within this area, already dating back, going back already a cool minute. We have the Rebels gang. No affiliation to the California Rebels gang. You know what I mean? Now, Rebels was a gang that started right here in 1949. Like I said, gangs in Chicago date back, old school years too. You know what I mean? I was seeing in the comments people were putting that, started like in the 90s or something like that. Like, no, these gangs go back decades and decades, bro. You know what I mean? In 1949, they were established. Now, Rebels is a white gang. And it was one of the largest white gang that there probably was in Chicago, because at least this is what I was told, and from what I read in the reports, that there was more than 2,500 members of this gang. 2,500, and it's just a white gang. They only take whites. 2,500. I don't know about you guys. That's a large number. So don't think that, white gangs are just like small and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like I said, there's a lot of white gang members in the United States. That part just gets overlooked. You know what I mean? People don't home in on that. But if you do your investigation and you see, and if you're from the streets, you know that these white gangs get really, really big. It's just that, people choose what they want to see and what they don't want to see. You get what I mean? Now, the color of this neighborhood is red. That's the color that they wear, and their symbol is a diamond. You know what I mean? That's pretty much, their symbol. And like I said, it's a large, neighborhood that, controlled right here in the new city area, the back of the yards, probably one of the most notorious and largest, and if not the, one of the first gangs within this area. Now, it didn't start off as a gang when it first started by their leader, which was some guy named Fish. He had started it, but he had started it as a social club, right? So an athletic club and stuff like that. They used to hang out in front of a candy shop. That was like their, kind of like their clubhouse, you know what I mean? Right there on 51st Street and Wolcott. That was their headquarters, you know what I mean? I think I had read it was Spike's Candy Stores where they used to hang out in front of, you know what I mean? Shit, they even had to remove the seats out of the candy shop. That way these fools wouldn't be just chilling right there for too long. That's crazy. Telling you. Yeah, but they just originally started as a social club. You know what I mean? But then when their leader, that guy Fish, got married and did his thing, that's when it spiraled out of control. You know what I mean? With gang fights and murders and shootings and all kinds of shit. You know what I mean? Because, they were beefing it with several other gangs that were in the area, like the Spartans, like the Sons of Italy, like the Sons of Chinatown, like the Cavaliers. They were beefing it with several gangs. You know what I mean? It was on and popping in this area, and the Rebels, they were making sure that they left their mark. You know what I mean? They're showing their presence. Because these guys, I guess because of the large number and the murders that were happening and all of that, they were making the newspapers a lot, as you guys could tell from all these clippings that I'm putting. These guys made the newspaper a lot. So, I mean, these guys were putting in work. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you don't make the newspapers and all that shit for selling cookies. You know what I'm saying? So these guys were kicking up some dirt. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's who they were. Now, since the time, already, law enforcement has been combating them, sweeping them up, and pretty much cleaned up the area. So you don't see them like you do before, but like I have said, and I have said this multiple times, gangs don't really die, they just multiply. Just because you don't see them like you used to, and stuff like that, doesn't mean that you're not gonna find any of them. You know what I mean? Like I said, you know, it be going down, but that's what's up with the rebels right here. Now, another old school neighborhood, right here in the New City area, the back of the yards area, you have a neighborhood that already dates back to the 40s, which is the Saints gang. Saints was founded in the back of the yard section right there in New City on 45th and Wood. So in the 40s, that's where they were established. And when they first started, they were a Polish gang, right? So they were Polish. But as time, started going, Mexicans started moving into the area and everything like that. So they started taking in Latinos. But it was mostly Mexicans at that time. So there were mostly Mexicans that, were a part of this gang, half Polish, half Mexican. And the reason why the gang was formed was because the greaser gangs were becoming an issue back then. The white gangs, American gangs, and they were picking on, these immigrants. And so they banded together to protect their all the kids that lived on on the block on 45th and Wood. So the toughest of the bunch. You know what I mean? So they were protecting their their cult stack. You know what I mean? Like their bond, their family, what they consider their family. You know what I mean? Because they were all friends and stuff like that. So they weren't like career criminals and stuff like that. That happened until, later on. It manifested into that. But that's not what it originated. But then again, most gangs, that is, why they do start. Just saying. Now, they are People Nation. You know what I mean? That's who they roll with. Their colors are black and light blue. Now, in these times, they have more Hispanics than anything, more Mexicans. Well, they have Latinos, but more Mexicans. It's mostly like a Mexican gang now. Kind of like the LA gangs, what happens to when some of these neighborhoods were started by Asians or Irishmen or Italians, and then it just ended up becoming Hispanic. Same, with other locations. And their symbol is a stick figure with a halo. So that's a stick figure smoking a blunt and a halo and 3 rays. That's the symbol. That's their symbol. And now, how they got their name and their logo and everything like that came from a comic book that was started in the 1920s. It was a famous kid comic book or whatever. It didn't make its way to the United States because, it was like from England or something like that. It didn't come over here till like the 40s. They got their hands on it. Kids loved the comic book. Named themselves after that. So that's pretty much where they got their name from. And all that. At least that's what I was told. And like I said, they've been here since the 1940s, and pretty large. Well, they're average size, not too big, not too small. They're average size. They're a tight group. You know what I mean? Like a family. They're still active. They got a tight bond, and continue to represent theirs. You know what I mean? And put it down for that Saints gang right there on Wood and 45th right there. And here's another gang that's located within the New City back of the yards area, that's pretty notorious. You know what I mean? One that puts in work and you hear about, and has countless reports on them. It's crazy. Now, they were founded on 48th and Wood. So they're the next neighborhood, right over to establish themselves. They do roll under the Folk Nation, you know what I mean, because they are insanes. The insane card is, who they roll with. Their colors is black and gray. They're mostly Latinos, Mexicans. They're mostly Mexicans. They take all Latinos, but mostly Mexicans. And their symbol is the Reaper with a sickle and the Knight chess piece. That's pretty much how you can tell it's their neighborhood. And they were founded in the 80s, you know what I mean? Right there on 48th and Wood. And they started off as a party crew at first, you know what I mean? They were pretty cool with the party players and like the 2-6, who was already official gangs. You know what I mean? So then, people start, applying the pressure. You got to pick sides, like who you gonna roll with. The Latin Kings and the Saints, were starting to apply pressure, whatever. So they sided with the Satan disciples, you know what I mean, and the Insanes, you know what I mean. And pretty much that's when the gangbanging started, going at it with all the neighborhoods. And what's crazy is because they were outnumbered. They were, they were roughly smaller gang, so they were outnumbered. Yeah, these guys were putting in work, homie, not backing down. Like handling their shit. You know what I mean, like how it should be. They were putting in that work, homie. They may have not been as deep as the rest, but shit, they had heart. Shit, and that's all that really matters. You know what I mean? They had to go at it with all kinds of neighborhoods. The 2-6, the La Raza. I mean, and several other gangs within the area. Maybe on and cracking. You know what I mean? Hey, but the City Knights, homie, they always held their own. And represented and continue to do so, you know what I mean? Because they're still active and putting in work right there. Now, right here in the new city area, the back of the yards location, we have another old school barrio that has been right here since the 60s, early 60s. You have the Latin Souls. Now, the Latin Souls, like I said, since the 60s, they've been right here. You know what I mean? Established on the 55th and Housestead area. I think that's how you pronounce that street. That's their dojo, their main domain, where it be going down. You know what I mean? And they are folk nation, so that's what they roll with. Their color is black and maroon. They're mostly Latinos, mostly Puerto Ricans. They take all Latinos in, but they're, a majority of them is Puerto Ricans. And their symbol is a Gothic cross with 3 dots and 440 plus. That's pretty much how you see them up. And the reason why this neighborhood was established is because when Puerto Rican families started settling right there, they were getting, mistreated, by white gangs, like the rebels and those kind of gangs. So they banded together to form this neighborhood, the Latin Souls. You know what I mean? Showing that the raza, had heart too. You had that soul, for this as well. You know what I mean? Because all these greaser gangs, were acting up. So they had to do what they had to do, to make it out the gutter, homie. It be getting treacherous, so they established themselves, pretty good, with countless rumbles and attacks and all that being happening right there at the village Sharks by Garfield Boulevard and Halsted, the territory, with white gangs, and Rangers and Disciples. And like I said, man, they were just going at it with everybody, man. It was on and cracking, homie. But the Latin Souls continue to maintain themselves. They're active and still representing right there. Another neighborhood that you have right here in this area of the new city, back of the yards, you have the Party Players. Now, the Party Players was a gang that was originated since the 1970s. They're People Nation. Now, their colors are black and maroon. That's the colors. Now, their symbol is 5 pointed cross with circles on each point. The Playboy Bunny facing left with 5 dots in his ear, and the cross drawn after the word players. You know what I mean? That's pretty much how their symbol is. And they have a pretty extensive history. They originated in several different locations, you know what I mean? Due to, because when they first started, they were a party crew, right? They were established right there on 24th Place and Washington now? I think that's how you say it. That's where they were established, right? Which is turf to the Disciples. Right, and then they were partying right there with the Latin Kings, so the Disciples didn't like that, so they started beef with the Party Players, who were just a party crew. So these guys had to relocate because obviously they were just a party crew. They were not a neighborhood. You know what I mean? So they didn't want no problems like that. So they moved to 24th and Marshall Boulevard, still, was getting rough. So they ended up hanging out on 48th and Rezon. I think, Rezon. I think that's how you pronounce that street. It's where they, finally landed and decided to set up shop. You know what I mean? and but they were getting pressured, by these other gangs. You know what I mean? Like the Saints, and all these neighborhoods that were already established. So they got tired of all that hassling. You know what I mean? So they finally started putting in work, homie. That when you push them so much, is bound that they're gonna push back. And that's what ended up happening. And they ended up establishing right there on 48th and Wilcock. That's the area, was where they decided to plant their flag. There's so many different gangs right there, but they're pretty cool with the 2-6 gang. You know what I mean? Who where they would get their stuff from, and pretty much decided to establish themselves, and ever since then, man, they just been putting in work, homie, and holding it down. But they did start off as a party crew, but like I said, it manifested into what it is today, because they're still active, continue to put in work, and hold it down for theirs right there. But that's what's up with the party players right there representing for their neighborhood.